Well, hey there, guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, it's Kenny's top 10 list of his favorite shows of the 2024 season. Well, it has pretty much become a tradition that every year, one of the first Tuesday shows of the new season, I recap the old season. I go back through the year shows and I pick out my 10 top shows and then rank them in order from 10th to my favorite. Sometimes you guys agree, sometimes you don't. But either way, we're going to get right into the list with number 10.
Number 10.
Well, back in January of last year, I did a light burn tutorial on making Disney autograph ornaments to take to the park and have the characters there sign them. Guys, this show brought a lot of elements forward, things like using light burn, things like cutting out and gluing together ornaments, things like taking what you've got and twisting it. So instead of an autograph book, it gave a different way to get ornaments from the Disney characters in the park. And of course, my granddaughter was traveling there, and this was a fantastic idea. Now, it wasn't my idea, it was actually my daughter's idea of doing these ornaments and then having the characters sign them. But it worked out amazingly well. It was a load of fun. And honestly, hopefully, you guys learned something from that. So it deserves a place on this list. It's not woodworking, but it still deserves a place on the top 10 list.
Number 9.
Well, I kind of struggled with this one. This one, I wasn't quite sure where to put it because it had so many aspects of a great project. And back in June, I brought you making custom speaker stands. Now, once again, it wasn't a woodworking project, but it was another one of my hobbies that I really enjoy doing, and that was welding. So I was able to take another hobby and incorporate it into a project to fulfill a need that I had for speaker stands because the ones that were commercially available were so expensive and seemed to be so cheaply made. So here on the show, we brought you the welding. And while I can't show a lot of the actual welding processes, it's very hard on the camera for the lens to have that arc flashing and have the camera try to adjust for that. It's very hard on the equipment. So although I wasn't able to show you a lot of the processes, I was able to bring an idea, a concept to the show. And I really love the way that the speaker mounts came out. I love the way they turned out. I still use them to this day. They're rock solid. They're up there on the wall. They hold those speakers so solidly. No vibrations of the sound, none of that. But I brought you this concept hoping that if you have the ability to weld, or even if you wanted to modify the project to make it out of wood, that you would take it and run with it. Not necessarily go out and buy a commercially available stand or speaker mount, but rather you would take the concept of, wait a second, I have a skill set, and you would run with that and make your own version of something else and save yourself a few bucks and gain yourself a couple pride points at the same time. Either way, guys, welding is a load of fun. I really enjoy it, and I enjoy bringing it here to the show. I was able to make something that I needed without pumping out a ton of cash, and for that reason alone, it deserves a place here on the top 10 list.
Number 8.
Well, it was the end of April, and we tried something completely out of my wheelhouse. Something I had never worked on before, something I had never done. And I brought my wife along for the ride too. And the two of us worked on this together. And that was my stained glass show. Guys, what a fun project. And I think the biggest part about this that made it onto the list is number one, getting to work with my wife here on the show. We always have a lot of fun when we do a project together. Sometimes we kind of do this a little bit, but that's okay. We still have fun. And as well, the other aspect was trying something new. Sometimes we get too comfortable in what we know, and we're a woodworker, so all we do is wood, and we like a certain type of wood, say walnut or maple, and that's all we work in. We never venture outside of that comfort zone. Well, this was a huge leap outside of that comfort zone to try something completely new and completely foreign to both of us. And honestly, we had a great time. And to be honest, those ornaments that we made, if you remember, we made the tree ornaments, they are both hanging on our Christmas tree this year. So we ended up with a fantastic project that's going to hang on that tree for years to come, hopefully. Now, I do want to revisit stained glass work again throughout the season in 2025. And if you haven't looked into it yet, to give it a try and have a little bit of fun with that, you're really denying yourself. So there you go. In at number 8 is my stained glass show.
Number 7.
Well, a lot of you will remember this show, and if not, you might want to get yourself checked because it was only last week. But out of number 7 comes that dog lamp that we made here on the show. Guys, that thing was just a load of fun, and it was, I would say, the project that morphed the most out of any of the projects I've done here on the show. Usually I have an idea in my head and I have a method that I think I want to use, and I have kind of an image of how I want this thing to look, and I streamline my thought process and I aim for that goal. This one here had the methods, it had the process, it had the image in my mind of what was going to happen. But as soon as the project started, it started going this way and that way and this way and that way. And the project completely morphed into something that looked nothing like what the vision was in my head that I initially had when I started the project design. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing because it's fun to step outside of that thought, and there's no reason that you can't change things. Just because you have an idea doesn't mean that you can't veer off and do your own thing, kind of like the ideas I present here on the show. You don't have to do it like I do it. You can take that and make it your own. And somehow I took my own and made it my own, and then made it my own again and made it my own again, and changed it all up and came up with something completely awesome that was not even close to what I initially thought of. It was a load of fun from the beginning. There was a load of challenges, how to mount the shade, how to get the LEDs mounted, what to use for a power supply. There was all kinds of challenges along the way in both the designing and in the actual making of the project, but we overcame them all and ended up with an awesome lamp in the process. My wife loves it. I don't know what to tell you, but definitely a worthwhile project to try, and it definitely belongs on this list of the top 10 for 2024.
Number 6.
Well, April brought us number 6, and just like the stained glass show, it was another one where I kind of stepped outside of my comfort zone and tried something different, and that was the marquetry with the We Create Vision laser. Guys, this thing turned out better than I could have ever imagined it turning out. Using the veneer and allowing the laser to cut it and then gluing it all back together was just an experiment gone right. It worked out perfectly all the way along. And even though the kerf of the laser's beam did leave slight gaps between the different species of the wood in my marquetry project, it wasn't enough to affect it enough that it made it that it was not successful or that I didn't like it. And truth be told, it's in the specs of the laser what the size of the beam is. So if you're that concerned about it, you can adjust the different sizes by that much in order to make them so that they're a seamless fit. If you want it to be truly seamless, you can do that. But the whole process of taking a design and cutting different or several images of it, cutting different pieces of it all in one shot out of different species of veneer, and then laminating that down onto a piece of hardboard and then applying a finish. Guys, it came out beautiful. It's just such a nice piece. And I do want to take that piece and create something with it for this season in 2025. it still sits there in my office, and every time I look at it, I say, geez, we got to do something with that, even if it's like maybe just a box side or a box lid or something. I don't know, but we're going to do something with it. We're going to have some fun with it. But either way, for trying a new process and having an experiment go so right and have it come out so well, I hope you guys have tried it. Because of that, it ends up at number 6 on the top 10 list.
Number 5.
Well, May brought us number 5 halfway through the list, and that was our shop-made angle guide. Guys, there was a lot of controversy with this one. Some people said, hey, that's great. Others said it doesn't have accuracy. Other guys knocked it. Other guys loved it. But I'm going to tell you something. The reason this is on the list at number 5 is because there is no greater feeling out here in the shop than being able to make your own tools or fabricate your own jigs. And this angle guide took something like, say, Beal's tilt box, which is quite an expensive unit. I know because I have one. It takes that concept and turns it around and uses scrap stock to make a usable angle guide that uses your phone and a level app in order to be able to create your own tilt box. Is it bang on accurate? Well, no, it's not, but it has repeatable results. So if you want a 45, you can cut a 45 and then set it again to do another 45. There might be a half-degree variance kind of thing either way, but it doesn't really matter. You also have to remember with that one too is you can't zero it out. So you have to take the reading off your table saw, and if your table saw is 1 degree tilt, you have to compensate for that in your measurements of the shop-made angle guide. But either way, making your own shop-made tools out of scrap material for next to no money to utilize something you already have, being a cell phone, that is a win-win situation. And I struggled with this one being at number 5 or whether or not it should be higher than that, actually. But I had other shows that I thought belonged higher on the list. So either way, at number 5, our shop-made angle guide.
Number 4.
Number 4 on the list brings us to June of 2024. And again, it's another shop-made tool or a shop-made jig or fixture, whatever you want to call it. And that would be our small parts cutting jig for the table saw. Guys, I have used a version of this for years. And the one that I brought to the show to you guys in June was kind of a modified and what I think is an improved version over what my old one was. And of course, you guys chimed in the comments section and brought me different suggestions as to how it could be improved even more. And that's great. That's what the comments section is for. That's what this show is about, sharing our ideas. But making that tool, why is it number 4? Why is it so high on the list? Number 1, I use it all the time, especially in a model build. That thing, if you are going to attempt any of these Toys and Joys models, or even your own smaller models, or even some of the toys that I design that I bring here to the show, this jig is priceless. It will go a long way to preventing you from losing these. And I can't say enough about it. It's a fantastic jig and I absolutely love it. So the fact that it allows you to cut small pieces without the fear of damage to your hands from such a violent tool. You got to remember, the table saw is one of the most violent tools in the shop, with an open blade spinning, able to remove limbs. This is not a tool for the faint-hearted. So you need to take everything you have in your arsenal and put it into play in order to keep yourself safe. And this jig does that for you. And that's one of the reasons it's on the list at number 4. The fact that it keeps me safe puts it at number 4, but the fact that it keeps you safe solidifies it there on the list. And if I could have several number ones, if I could have several number twos, this particular project, the small parts cutting jig for the table saw, would be a lot higher because of the safety value, because of providing the ability to cut these small parts without the fear of losing your fingers. It's just a fantastic jig. And if you haven't made one for your table saw work in your shop, what are you waiting for?
Number 3.
Rounding up the top 3 now from September brought us another shop-made tool of sorts, and that would be my 2-part series on making a drill press. In this case, it was for my Nova drill press. Again, I cannot stress how great of a feeling it is to be able to make something like this for your shop and have it improve your workflow, your safety. It improves everything, and it has the ability for you to add your own design elements and switch things around. Now, I got a bit of flack from you guys on this design because the Nova drill press has such a large crank handle to raise and lower the table, because it is a beefy table. Because it has that beefy handle, and because I moved it to the front, best tool mod bar none, by the way. It doesn't matter what any of you say, it's still the best mod. Everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of you saying, oh, you're going to walk into that. That's dangerous. You shouldn't have that on there. You need a wheel to turn. You got to get that handle out of there. Since September, and here we are in January 2025, I can count on 0 fingers how many times I've walked into that handle. Absolutely none. How many times has it gotten in my way? Absolutely none. How many times have I wished that it wasn't there? Absolutely none. Now, there are several reasons for that. Don't get me wrong. I'm in a small shop, and in front of my drill press, for when I'm doing, say, longer drilling processes, I have a chair. What does that chair block? It blocks that handle. So I have to go around the chair anyway, which automatically puts me around the handle. As well, my bandsaw sticks out a little further than the handle. I'm already used to walking around that bandsaw. I don't hook myself on that either, probably because I'm going around the chair. So that helps as well. So would it be a problem for you? Maybe it would, but for me, is it a danger in my shop? No. Is it a hazard? No. Did I walk into it, or have I walked into it? Absolutely not. Would I change it? No. It's an amazing drill press table. I love it. I love the fence. I love the front adjustments. I love the T-tracks. I love the ability to set up repeatable stop blocks on the fence and the table to help me in my builds. Everything about that 2-part series was bang on. And although it didn't quite fulfill the needs of some viewers, some people saying, oh, it took you longer to install that handle to the front than what it did to make the whole table. It's free information. I mean, it takes what it takes. That's the way that I see it. But regardless of whether or not you liked it, regardless of whether or not you thought that handle was a danger, regardless of any of the comments that were made on the show, in my mind, for me, number 3 stands at my 2-part series of making a drill press table, and I still love the thing and wouldn't change anything about it so far.
Number 2.
Well, usually around number 2 is where the controversy starts and people start disagreeing with my choices. But that's okay. They can make their own top 10 list if you like. Back in January of last year, we started quite possibly, no, not quite possibly, we started the longest model build series that I have ever produced on this show. It brought out a whopping 21 parts, and it took up almost 5 months of the show on the Friday episodes. I had to actually take breaks in between and slide other shows in there, but 21 parts, and that was for my Toys and Joys dump truck and pup trailer build. What an absolute epic build. Guys, that series was exhausting. It was absolutely exhausting. Not the build. The build was phenomenal and I loved every part of it. It was the fact that the editing never ended. I would come out here to the shop and work for 7, 8 hours on the model and then have to go inside and do 2 to 3 hours of editing for every day that I was out here working on the model. And sometimes that 2 to 3 hours of editing only produced like a 5 minute segment of the show. So while the series itself was exhausting, because they are difficult, they're inherently difficult to edit and to bring to the show and to portray them in such a way that is interesting that people will like. But while it is a lot of work and it is exhausting to do those series, the fact that you guys like them so much and the feedback I get from you guys on these model builds far outweighs the negative and all of the work. So, because of that, it deserves a much higher place on the list. And in this case, it's number 2. And I know there's going to be a lot of you guys that say it should be number 1. But like I said, if you want it at number 1, feel free to make up your own list and drop it in the comments below. But either way, at number 2, the most epically long build I have ever done, 21 parts of the Toys and Joys dump truck and pup trailer build.
Number 1.
Well, I am pretty sure that it is no surprise as to what number 1 entails. And for anyone who has watched my show for any length of time, you know that there is a certain little girl that has stolen my heart. And she comes out here to the shop and she brings nothing but smiles and laughter. And because of that, it makes me smile and me laugh. It increases my enjoyment of my time out here tenfold. And now she has her own little segment that airs here once in a while, Woodworking with Ellie. And back in May, we brought you the Making a Pasta drying rack. And while the project was really nothing spectacular, it was a couple pieces of pine with some dowels glued in place into it. It's not always about the project. It's not about what you make. Time out here in the shop is not about what you fabricate, what you make, what you construct, what you build, what you assemble, what you glue together, what you cut up. It is not about that. It's about the experience that you have out here. If you come out here every time and absolutely hate it, and it's so structured and there is no deviance from processes, it's like mechanics. That's not a hobby. That's employment. That's a job. And that's something where somebody tells you what to do. And that is not what makes time out here a good time. What makes time out here a good time is the enjoyment that that little girl brings. And while the show itself, the project was no big whoop, guys, just watch the bloopers at the end of the silliness that this girl brings. And if that doesn't make you laugh, then your heart is 3 sizes too small. So I'm telling you, if you have grandchildren or children or even young ones in the neighborhood, get them into your shop. Get them in there for a day of woodworking. Plan an easy project, and your experience in the shop will increase tenfold. I guarantee it. It will make it the most enjoyable experience you've ever had in the shop to see the eyes of the young ones light up when they make something, and the pride that they feel like, hey, I made that, that transfers on to you, because without you, they couldn't have done it. So now you're proud of them being proud of themselves. Guys, it's a win-win. And because of that, because I get to spend time with her out here, because of the joy she brings me, because of the fact that I am kind of instilling a love of crafting. It doesn't have to be woodworking, just crafting, making things, forming things with your hands, building something that wasn't there before from materials that don't necessarily look like what you create. That's crafting. And if you create that in the young ones, then our hobby, our craft will continue on for many more generations. Stop introducing the young ones to it and the craft will die. That's the way it is. So, because of the joy she brings me and because of the guarantee that I am getting her into crafting and getting her to love it and enjoy it and take it in her own direction, making a pasta drying rack, time with my granddaughter at number 1. And there you have it. Kenny's top 10 list of the top 10 episodes of the show from 2024. Do you agree with the list? Probably not. That's why it's my list. Guys, there are so many episodes of the show on the channel. There is 928 or 29 at this point in time, I think it is. And that number keeps increasing. I produce 104 shows minimum per year. That is a lot of time. That's a lot of effort. That is a lot of editing, a lot of filming, a lot of work, a lot of planning, a lot of answering your comments, a lot of posting on YouTube. It is a lot of work, but it's a labor of love. I truly enjoy what I do, and I enjoy my interactions with you guys. So whether or not you enjoyed the list today or you agree with the list today, that's not the point. The point is, do you have a list of your own? Do you have 10 favorite shows that you like, whether they are on par with mine or not? That's what's important. It's important that out of those 104 episodes, that there was 10 that you were pleased enough with to say, I really enjoyed that show. It's not a matter of, do you agree with Kenny's list? If you're still enjoying the show, then that's what's important to me. And I try to take your feedback seriously. So if you have a show idea that you want to see here, bring it up. And who knows, maybe it'll be on next year's top 10. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you've enjoyed anything about today's show, hey, why not like and subscribe to the channel? We have an amazing audience base here, and I'm hoping that you're going to consider becoming a part of that. I want to thank you again for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the content. Whether you agree with it or not, I hope you've enjoyed the top 10 list of 2024. And more importantly, I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another Alternative Tuesdays.